Hello, everybody. Today is Monday, February 20th, 2023. This is Adam Olson coming to you. Man, it's been a little while, and I am excited to get into the different topics to talk about today. First off, I wanted to touch on the rivalry. What constitutes a good rivalry? So, in last week's episode, we talked about, off the top of my head, what I thought constituted a good rivalry. I talked about proximity. Okay, so how close the schools are. I do think that matters. It's not the end all be all, but it's important. Yeah, for sure. I also talked about the history, so the longevity of it. Has it been interrupted? I talked about the competitiveness. So how close it is. Is it one-sided? Is it back and forth constantly, or does it go in waves? Those are all very important things. And then I also talked about like memorable experiences, scenes, moments, anything like that. And I thought that all those brought together do a really, really solid job of describing a good rivalry, what makes a good rivalry or a great rivalry. So most of us know and have heard of the game between Michigan and Ohio State, or the Iron Bowl between Auburn and Alabama. In college basketball, you have Duke and Kentucky, or Duke and North Carolina. In the NFL, you have the Dallas Cowboys and everyone in the NFC East. You have Green Bay and Chicago. And I think a lot of it too has to do with where you grew up. So the region or the state or the locale, I do think that it's going to matter more to you there. It's going to have a greater significance. But then a couple things that I failed to mention, but I had more time to think about. How involved were you in the rivalry? Like, did you go to that school, or are you from that community? Were you a coach or a player there? Have you been on both sides of the rivalry? And then have you just been able to observe the rivalry as an objective or somewhat unbiased spectator? Okay, so, those all, in my mind, constitute the terms for a good rivalry. I'm going to talk about a rivalry that's very special to me, but it's also just a great rivalry. So if I had to look at this rivalry and I had no skin in the game, like I was never really associated with it, I just learned about it, and based on my research I was able to compare it to other rivalries, I would think that it's one of the best rivalries in the country, okay? And here's an element added that I think really sparks people's interest once they learn about it. It's the uniqueness of the rivalry. Okay, so one of the factors I talked about, a real strong factor, is the proximity. All right, so the rivalry game that I am going to talk about is the Battle of the Ravine. It is played between two Division II schools located in Arkadelphia, Arkansas. Ouachita Baptist University, they are the Tigers. Okay, they are orange and gold. All right. And holy moly, orange and gold. Chimney Pete's. I'm so sorry. Corona del Sol, 1001 East Knox Road is orange and gold. I apologize, OBU Tiger fans. Ouachita Baptist is purple and gold. Okay. And you'll find white in a lot of their uniforms as well. And then the Henderson State Reddies, and they are red and white. Again, my apologies, OBU, please forgive me, but you know my heart is in the right place. So I'm going to explain to you why that's such a great rivalry, all right? And then I'm going to, of course, bring my experience within that rivalry in, but first I just want to explain it to you from a spectator or an observer standpoint. So this game is played between two teams in the town of Arkadelphia, Arkansas. So both Henderson State, which is a state-funded public university, along with Ouachita Baptist University, which is a private school, all right, are in that town. Arkadelphia, Arkansas, a town of about 12 to 13,000 people. It has one high school, but two colleges. Think about that. And the high school is a 4A high school, which in Arkansas is right smack dab in the middle. 7A is the biggest classification, 1A is the smallest classification. So that really gives you an idea of the size of this town. Arkadelphia, Arkansas is a nice town. It is located off of I-30 on the way to Little Rock, exit 73, I believe. So here's what makes Ouachita and Henderson such a special rivalry, the Battle of the Ravine. First off, and very, very importantly, the schools are located literally across the street from each other. Okay, so you can be sitting in Ouachita Baptist's press box, Cliff Harris Stadium, all right, and you can see over into Carpenter Haygood Stadium and vice versa, all right. I've been to both stadiums as a spectator and as a coach. Pretty cool, all right. So the visiting team ends up walking across Highway 6 to the home team stadium. It's got to be the shortest road trip in the history of road trips. All right. Now, so I talked to you guys about the uniqueness of just the proximity. They're so close. They're right across the street. You have to understand that students will actually attend classes. If I'm an OBU student, I might actually attend some classes either on Henderson State's campus or that are actually registered under the Henderson State course catalog and vice versa. Okay, simply so the two schools actually collaborate with one another somewhat. Okay, but that doesn't take away from the fact that this is a great rivalry. All right, now another thing I think that makes it such a good rivalry is the fact that the series, all right, the series right now is at 46, 43, and 6 in favor of Ouachita Baptist. I repeat, the series is at 46, 43, and 6 in favor of Ouachita Baptist University. So it's been very close. The schools are located very close, but the series is very closely contested. All right. And then my own personal experience within it now is I coached at Ouachita Baptist from 2009 to 2011. I learned about the Battle of the Ravine. So in 2009, we played against Henderson State and we won. All right. And this was one of the coolest gifts that obviously I still have. This is a ball, okay, and for all of you that don't have video and aren't looking at it, okay, this is a ball that was given to me along with all of the coaches on our staff, all right, and it says my last name, the year, and then the score of the game, which was 35-28, Ouachita Baptist, we won it, okay, and I say we because I was a part of that staff, all right. The next 2 seasons that I was on staff there, we lost, and 2010 was tough. We went over to Henderson State and they beat us pretty good. 2011, that game was a crazy game. Henderson State jumped on us early. We came back and it literally came down to the last play of the game. Last play of the game, we ran power. We thought we got in. The refs thought we did not get in, and Henderson State won the game. So, man, it was just what a memory. What an awesome rivalry. And it doesn't get all the national notoriety, but I'm telling you right now, it just doesn't get it because people don't know about it. If more people knew about it, and hopefully this podcast gives it a little bit more exposure, I really think it could become a huge rivalry just on a national scene. It already is a huge rivalry for those alumni bases and people who know about the game. And in the state of Arkansas, you have Coach Todd Knight leading the Tigers, and you have Coach Scott Maxfield leading the Reddies. Those guys have been around there for a while. Coach Knight is a Ouachita alum. So it's so unique, and it's such a cool experience to take part in. And there's just been so many. I told you guys about the last play, the 2011 game, and how we ran power and we thought we were in, and Henderson State obviously didn't, and the refs said we weren't in, and that was the game. And it came down to that. And there have just been so many great plays made by both teams. And it really is an outstanding rivalry. So I wanted to share that with everyone. Oh, and by the way, it's tied for the oldest rivalry in all of Division II. It is tied, okay, for the oldest rivalry in all of Division II, which makes it one of the longest standing rivalries in the country, regardless of division. Okay, that's pretty unique and pretty special, and I really want to encourage people to go to that game. And one more thing that I guess adds to the significance: it's the last game of the regular season, and so it really doesn't matter what both teams' records are. Like, they're going to play hard in that game. Now, both those teams are usually really good, so that adds to the drama and the impact that it can have. All right, so that would be my example of a great rivalry. I know there's a lot of great rivalries out there, but the Battle of the Ravine, played by Ouachita Baptist University, again, purple and gold or purple and white, and Henderson State, red and white. Great rivalry game. All right, now moving on. I want to talk to you guys about what it means to win a national championship for the FBS teams. Okay, so pretty much every episode I've done, I've kind of dogged on TCU. So, and I don't mean to diminish what they did. TCU's awesome, and I've said that in the episodes. Okay, so TCU was the second best team in the country. It doesn't matter what you say, they made it to the national championship game, and yeah, they got beat bad, okay, but they made it to the national championship game. All right, so what I want to talk to you guys about is this: how hard is it to win a national championship game? Well, Adam, it's probably pretty tough, right? But if the team gets the right coaching staff and the right players and the school commits, then there's so many teams that have an opportunity to win it. Here's what I want to present to you. There's probably not as many teams that are capable of winning the FBS national championship as we would originally like to believe. Okay? If I had to just look through the list of FBS teams, I'm going to say there's between 10 and 15 teams that have a realistic chance of winning an FBS championship. And when I say realistic, I mean it's not outside of the realm of possibility. If they won that game, you'd look at it and go, oh, okay, yeah, I could see that. You know, the ball broke their way. They got a couple of calls. They stayed healthy. All those things happened, right? But the 10 to 15 number is probably even too big of a number. Teams that have a legit chance of winning that national championship, probably, gosh, man, I'm going to say between 7 to 10 at most. With that 15, what's that number 15 you threw out there, Adam? Well, I mean, if a team has things break its way, then yeah. All right, so really 7 to 10 teams. All right, so let me go through this and let me present some stuff to you guys. All right, so national championships, they are essentially bought, okay? And you might think that in terms of, hey, they're bought by boosters illegally paying players, which isn't even really a thing anymore. I mean, it might be, and I know that it's happened, but I mean, we have NIL, which stands for name, image, and likeness, which is the student athletes. This is not just football now, but this is student athletes' abilities to profit off of their own name, image, and likeness. Okay, NIL. And I think that NIL is going to help teams that were kind of in that second or third tier maybe raise their level of competitiveness, so that they can get into that, you know, that fringe 15, all right, and maybe eventually that 7 to 10 group, okay? So you have the name, image, and likeness, but really what I mean by championships are bought is, what's your recruiting expenditure like? What are you doing as far as staff, and not just like on-field coaches? Because there's an NCAA rule, okay, that says you can have 11 full-time on-field coaches. All that means is the head coach and 10 assistants, okay, that are paid in like some full-time fashion that are actually allowed to coach. And then you're allowed to have 4 graduate assistants, and you can split those graduate assistants up however you want, that are also coaches. So you're supposed to be allowed to have 15 total human beings that can technically do on-field coaching. Does that actually happen? Yeah, all 15 of those jokers are coaching in some capacity. Absolutely. Are there more than 15 people coaching at any given FBS school at any time during a practice? Yes. Yup. Absolutely there are. Is that supposed to be allowed? To my knowledge, through NCAA rules and legislations, no, not yet. But there are some legislations that are looking to be passed or voted on, which would allow quality control and analysts and basically other support staff who, those are either aspiring coaches who at one time were full-time paid assistants, to then coach in an actual coaching capacity. And really all that means is you can have as many human beings as you want at the practice, but there's only like 15 people. This is FBS. We're talking about Division 1A. There's only 15 people that are technically supposed to be allowed to give some type of coaching instruction. Okay, 15. The 11 full-time coaches and the 4 graduate assistant coaches. Okay, but that's just, it doesn't happen. Now, the NCAA cannot regulate that. The schools are supposed to regulate themselves and self-report, but that just, folks, that just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. That's why there's a legislation in place. And so getting back to the initial point, staffs are bought, right? So head coaches, it's a constant arms race, okay? And head coaches are constantly looking for a way up in their recruiting departments and then just in their support staff. So an analyst is going to be someone that's extremely important, and they're going to do everything that a coach does, except technically they're not supposed to coach on the field. Same with quality control personnel, same with advisors, same with consultants, same with any other title, assistant executive, associate deputy, any other title you want to give to somebody. They are technically not supposed to coach, but they probably are. Okay? I mean, that's just the way that's going to work, all right? And so hopefully we'll see some type of change in that to where they're allowed to do it, instead of everybody playing this game and acting like they don't do it and really they do it, and then they argue about who's more compliant when really no one's that compliant. And here we go. All right, so staffs are purchased. All right, students through name, image, and likeness are purchased. The athletic departments don't actually purchase those student athletes, but the collectives, meaning like alumni and groups of alumni are the collectives, and then just people who are supporters who may not have gone to school there but really want to see that school's team do well. They get together, form this thing called a collective, and they're supposed to sign name, image, and likeness deals or provide support to the existing players. It's not supposed to be an inducement, meaning you're not supposed to present this to a prospective student athlete and say, hey, if you come here, we're going to give you this amount of money. It's supposed to be, hey, you're already here and we're so happy that you're here and we want to do this for you. So it's supposed to be more of the roster management than it is talent acquisition. Okay, roster management simply means you're taking care of the kids that are already there. Talent acquisition means you're trying to get people to come, but now you have things like tampering, all right, where you just blatantly have schools connecting with or contacting student athletes at other schools, man, and that's bad. It's bad. And maybe they don't directly contact them, but let's say I'm a coach at school X and I really want this student athlete to come to my school, but he's at school Y. So then I go to that student athlete's high school coach and I say, hey, why don't you relay this information to your former student athlete who's at school Y? Because we're doing better. We're a better place. We're more of a destination. We put more guys in the league at his position, and we got the bag, dog. We can pay him more. Okay, so why don't you tell him that and just see if maybe he'd be interested in that, and then I don't know, man, maybe he wants to slide into the DMs or something. I got no idea. But the tampering and the money, that kind of goes hand in hand. Okay, and so getting back to it, the paying for players is not supposed to happen, but it has, and it will continue to do so. It's just a little bit more overt because you can do it. It's just not being done in the way that it's supposed to be done by everybody all the time. You also have facilities, and that's another part of the arms race. Okay, so this school wants to put a PlayStation in everybody's locker. This school wants to have all these USB ports and a massage tub for the dude's feet in the lockers. This school wants to put cool logos on the lockers, and everyone wants to have this student athlete performance center where you got whirlpools and barbershops and massage tables, and of course the nutrition part of it. And it's just these facilities, man. That's another part of the stuff that's bought. Okay. When I talk about buying a championship, those are just some of the things that I mean. Recruiting, name, image, and likeness, facilities, and then just blatantly trying to get someone paid outside of the name, image, and likeness. All right. So I think a lot of people are still stuck with the notion that that these football programs are all basically on the same level, and they're not. It's like it's not even close. I talked to you guys about Power 5 versus Group of 5. I talked to you guys about just how difficult it is to get recruited, and so now what I'm going to talk to you guys about is parity. Okay, everyone says they love parity, but they really don't. Like, the NFL is designed for parity. That's why the team that wins the Super Bowl gets the last draft pick in the first round and all the subsequent rounds, and the worst team in the league is supposed to get the first round draft pick. And yet you still have some franchises that falter and other franchises that succeed. All right, but in college football, the Alabamas and the Georgias of the world, they get all the first round draft picks, or just at least a majority of them. Okay, so the way it works in FBS football is you have 85 scholarships. Okay, now, Adam, the rosters are more than 85. Yes, you have walk-ons. Well, so-and-so's a preferred walk-on. Okay, they're still a walk-on. You're either on a full scholarship or you're not on a scholarship. At the FBS level, there's no like partial scholarships. You might be on some type of academic scholarship as a walk-on. That's fine, but you can't be given the academic scholarship to replace the athletic scholarship that you would normally get. It's not how it works. Okay, so you're either there as a student and you walked onto the football team and you're on the roster and maybe you even play, or you're there as a scholarship athlete. Okay, so let me go through these power rankings. Okay, I got these numbers directly off 24/7 Sports. Okay, and it's the talent rating. So basically, you have a star system. Okay, and the most elite student athletes in the country are labeled 5 stars. Okay, and then after that, you have 4 stars, 3 stars, 2 stars, and no stars. Okay. You call it 1 stars or however you want to deem it. All right. 5 stars are super rare. Don't just miss me with the whole, yeah, there's a bunch of 3 stars on Super Bowl rosters, blah, 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 blah. I'll get into that with you guys later. That's just, you need to stop it with that. Every year when the Super Bowl rolls around, we're like, we love this underdog story, but if you actually knew the numbers and the data, that's just not true. So there are 32 5-stars initially in every class, and then a couple more get added because people don't really, the recruiting services don't remove 5-star status from somebody. That's because that's kind of an indictment on them if they do that. So by the time, because then they re-rank and they re-evaluate and they say this kid's the 100th best kid in the country. Now he's the 63rd. Now we think he's the 79th. All right. And once you pass that top 32 threshold, that's when you get that 5th star, the coveted 5th star, because there's 32 first-round draft picks, and so therefore in 24/7 Sports and a lot of these other recruiting services, you end up with 32-ish 5-star kids. I think in the class of 2023 there was maybe 38 or 39 5-stars after the re-ranking and final ranking actually occurred in the class of 2023. Okay, so guess who has the most 5 and 4 stars on their roster? Guess. Yep, it's Alabama. Okay, Alabama. Now, if you look at their roster, there's kids that are walk-ons. Okay, but if you go through it, they have 14 kids on their current roster, or I shouldn't say current, I should say on this past season's roster that were 5 stars. 14 kids that were 5 stars. You have 61 kids that were 4 stars and 9 kids that were 3 stars. So basically, 75 out of the 85 scholarship players at the University of Alabama this past season were either 4 or 5 star players. That's ridiculous. Okay. Guess who's number 2? Georgia. Okay. 15 5 stars and 53 4 stars. 17 3 stars. Well, Adam, Georgia then has less talent than Alabama on their roster, and they won the national championship. Okay. Yes, that happened. All right. Here's the argument I want to make. Having all that talent does not necessarily mean you're going to win a national championship. You will see coming up here that, in fact, having all that talent doesn't even mean you're going to have a winning record. But it means you should. It means you should. On the flip side, if you don't have all that talent, you're not going to win a national championship. Now, maybe somewhere down the road, someone breaks that model. Okay? Someone somewhere down the road with a bunch of 3 stars and in my opinion, they probably have to have just really good coach and an absolute phenom at quarterback. Okay, and maybe some really good interior defensive linemen. With a team like that, where you're a majority 3 stars and a couple 4 and 5 stars, yeah, you can break through. Think Clemson early on when they first started making their run in like 2015, 2016. That type of team, yeah. But now, with things the way that they are, I mean, the stars, the roster talent, and just the overall talent acquisition. I mean, okay, I'm going to keep going. Bama's number 1. Georgia's number 2. Guess who's number 3? Ohio State. Ohio State. So the 2 teams, Georgia and Ohio State, the number 2 and number 3 most talented teams, okay, in the country, played in one of the national semifinals. All right. Number 4, Texas A&M. I told you, having all that talent doesn't necessarily guarantee you that you're going to make it there. But on the flip side, if you don't have that talent, you're not going to win the national championship. You might make it to the national championship game. You might make it, TCU, but you ain't going to win it. Ain't going to win it. And that's cold hard facts. That doesn't mean I don't want them to. I'm just stating the truth. That's the truth. Okay. Number 5, Clemson, ACC champ. Number 6, Texas. Texas was 8-5 this year. They had the 6th most talented roster in the country this past season. And they went 8-5. They got beat by 1 point against Alabama, the most talented team in the country this season. Oregon, number 7. LSU, number 8. Oklahoma, number 9. Notre Dame, number 10. Okay, so Oregon did not even win the Pac-12. They didn't even play in the Pac-12 championship game. LSU won the SEC West. Oklahoma, 6-7. When Dylan Gabriel got hurt, Oklahoma was in trouble. Notre Dame, good, not great. All right. Number 11, the 11th most popular team, or not most popular, the 11th most talented team. USC. Number 12, Miami. Number 13, Michigan. Number 14, Florida. And number 15, Penn State. So you have the SEC represented 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 out of the top most talented, 15 most talented teams. Okay, 5 of them SEC teams. 5. Okay, the Big Ten. So in my opinion, the second best conference in the country. 1, 2, 3. 3 out of 15. Okay, so 8 of the 15 most talented teams in the country come from the SEC and the Big Ten. Okay, and not just that, probably the teams that were the best in the country came from the SEC and the Big Ten. So they're not just the most talented, they were also the best. I mean, Georgia versus Ohio State in that semifinal game, last play of the game, missed field goal. You know, I mean, what, like, do you think Ohio State is better or worse than TCU? Well, Adam, you said that TCU was the second best team in the country. They were. They made it to the national championship game and they lost, right? But were they? Would Ohio State beat TCU on a neutral field? What do you think? I think that Ohio State would smash TCU on a neutral field. So that's just my opinion, but based on what I saw from all of them, I mean, I don't know how you could not think that. I mean, I thought it was pretty obvious. So what I'm trying to do, there we go. The Pac-12 championship game, I was checking myself real quick because I said Oregon didn't make the Pac-12 championship game. I thought it was USC and Utah, and then in my head I was like, oh wait, crap. Oregon's in the north, and both Utah and USC are in the south. And then I was like, oh wait, they don't have a north and a south anymore. Mm-hmm. Yeah, got it. Yes. So, okay. Texas and Oklahoma. Technically, they're still in the Big 12, but what are they about to be in? The SEC. Clemson's in the ACC. Notre Dame's an independent, but they're in the Big 10 footprint. Okay, although the ACC might say, well, hold on a second. No. Notre Dame, you're not an ACC school. You should be in the Big 10, but you don't want to be. It's an easier path for you in the ACC, but you don't want to do that either. You want to remain an independent. So independent you are, as long as you keep getting that contract. All right, so Clemson, ACC, Miami, ACC. Okay, so, I mean, really the wild cards are Texas and Oklahoma. And they better continue to recruit at that level, because you see Alabama's the most talented team. They just signed the number one class in the country for the 2023 cycle, right? That same Alabama team that you go, well, they're not very good, Adam. They didn't win the SEC. They didn't even win the SEC West. And Nick Saban doesn't have it anymore, and they got 2 new coordinators. And okay, all right, that's what you think, huh? Okay, that's cool. Let's talk about this. Keep these receipts for a year from now, and let's see. Look, Georgia's not going anywhere, okay? And you could say, well, did Nick Saban, was he the architect of his own demise, right? Did he create the monster that is Kirby Smart? Well, yeah, of course he created him. But don't you think, like, as competitive as Nick Saban is, that he isn't stinking proud of Kirby Smart and what that dude did to get that ball rolling at Georgia? I mean, all Georgia is, it's Alabama East. Like, Kirby just took Nick Saban's model. He put his spin on it, okay, and he refined it, all right? And, I mean, he's got that thing humming. But, guys, Alabama's not going anywhere. So stop it. Stop it with that. They're not going anywhere. Okay. Number 16 most talented team, North Carolina. 17, Florida State. 18, Auburn. 19, Tennessee. 20, Washington. You guys catching my drift here? Okay. So now I want to go with this. Let's talk about national championship winners. Okay, so first off, the top 5 recruiting budgets, just money spent on recruiting. Number 1, Georgia, $4.5 million. Number 2, Texas A&M, $2.98 million. Number 3, Tennessee, $2.92 million. Number 4, Texas, $2.44 million. And number 5, Alabama, $2.32 million. Dude, Bama's getting a deal, man. They got Nick Saban. He's only spending the 5th most money on recruiting in the country, but they got the top ranked class and the most talented roster in the country. A steal. It's a steal, right? So let's talk about who's won national championships. So now we can kind of wrap this up and say, all right, Adam, you rambled for a long time and you told me some teams are talented. In the last 5 years, 4 teams have won a national championship. Okay, Georgia's won 2 of them. Alabama's won 1. LSU has won 1, and Clemson has won 1. All 4 of those teams are in the southern footprint of the country, and 3 of those 4 teams are in the SEC. Dang. Okay. In the last 10 years, 6 teams have won a national championship. Alabama's won 3, Georgia's won 2, Clemson's won 2, LSU has won 1, Ohio State has won 1, and Florida State has won 1. That is 1 out of the 6 teams that have won it in the last 10 years, 1 team that is outside of the southern part of the United States. Ohio State, who recruits nationally, who has the 3rd most talented roster in the country, who regularly churns out guys at every position to the NFL. It's Ohio State. Okay? In the last 20 years, 10 schools have won a national championship. In the last 20. Alabama's won 6. I repeat, in the last 20 years, Alabama has won 6 national championships. They've won 6 of them. Okay? They lost to Georgia, so they've played for at least 7. They lost to Clemson, so they've played for 8. I mean, think about that. All right? LSU has won 3, although one of those was a shared championship. Georgia has won 2. Clemson has won 2. Florida has won 2. USC has won 2. Then Ohio State, Florida State, Auburn, and Texas have all won 1. Are these names ringing a bell? Do they sound familiar? Yeah, but Adam, on any given year, anyone can win it. No. What did I tell you at the beginning? There's probably, in reality, 7 to 10 teams. All right? 7 to 10 teams that have a realistic shot of winning it. All right? And 10 to 15 teams where I could see that. I could see it happening. Okay? All right. Well, Adam, let's go back a little bit further. 30 years. I'm going to cover the last 30 years. 15 teams have won a national championship in the last 30 years. 15. There's going to be a whole bunch of familiarity here. You ready? You ready to get those feelings hurt? Okay. Alabama, 6. The following teams have won 3. LSU, Florida State, Nebraska, Florida. The following teams have won 2. Georgia, Clemson, USC, and Ohio State. And the following teams have won 1. Texas, Miami, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Auburn, and Michigan. In the last 30 years. 30. Okay, so 15 teams have won a national championship in the last 30 years. And if you did the math, if you're really fact-checking me, you would have said, well, Adam, you actually named off 32. You're right. Okay, LSU and USC had a shared national championship, as did one of Nebraska's 3 and Michigan's only one within the last 30 years. That way I don't get the get off my lawn guys coming out there and wringing their fists and going, ugh, Adam, Michigan, hail to the victors. Da, 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 da. I know, man, we can go back into like the 40s and the 50s, but man, look, I went back the last 30 years. You know why? Because first off, they're recruiting 18 and 19-year-olds. Well, they're signing 18 and 19-year-olds. They're recruiting, 15, 16, and 17-year-olds. So what relevance does a national championship before 2000 have with anyone who's being recruited? Besides the fact that your uncle or your father might have remembered it and told you stories about it. It just doesn't resonate. So wake up. Stop lying to yourself about these things. That doesn't mean it's not important. It just means if this is about talent acquisition and roster management and facilities being built up, okay, and social media and clout and anything else that looks good, okay, and money and eyeballs on television sets and streaming and contracts and big-time networks, okay? All that stuff, really, you don't have to go back any further than 10 years, okay? We're about to have a brand new 12-team playoff. 12 teams, okay? So I believe that this upcoming football season is going to be the last of the 4-year, okay? And I might be wrong on that. This upcoming fall might be the first of the 12-year, but I believe there's one more year left on the 4-team playoff. Okay, so that means it'll have been around for 10 years. 10 years. That 4-team playoff. Before that, it was the BCS, and before that, it was just the top teams in the AP poll got voted in, and they played, and it was like the de facto championship. All right, so that's how you had that couple of shared teams or shared championships. But I'll end this segment with this. Okay, what do you think makes a dynasty? Okay, so I asked a couple of my colleagues this question. I had two real legit dynasties that I could name. Okay, so one is UCLA. John Wooden at UCLA. He won 10 national championships in college basketball over 12 years. So from 1964 until 1975, John Wooden and UCLA won 10 of the 12 possible national championships. That's remarkable. Like, are you kidding me? Like, that is insane. Think about that. Like, I just talked to you guys about what Nick Saban has done at Alabama, right? 6. And he's played for a couple more. Like, that in and of itself is remarkable. Everyone always talks about GOAT status. Nick Saban's the GOAT, man. He's the GOAT. Did it at a time when it was as hard as any to win. And he's the GOAT, man. And then a more recent, like, this is ongoing, I would say, North Dakota State in the FCS or 1AA, okay? They have an ongoing dynasty. Now, they lost the most recent national championship game to their rivals this past January, okay? North Dakota State lost to South Dakota State in the national championship game. But listen to this stat. In the last 12 years, they've won 9 of the last 12 national championships. And they played for a 10th. Tell me that's not a dynasty, okay? So, like, right now, Georgia has won 2 in a row. That is remarkable. Props, Georgia. Can we call them a dynasty? They played for another one and lost to Alabama, right? So you might be able to call it the start of a dynasty, but I think most people would agree you got to win at least 3 to really be considered a dynasty. Now, think about this too. If you win 3 in a row and then you don't win anymore for a while, are you a dynasty? I don't know. Maybe. What happens if you win 3 over a 5-year span? Are you considered a dynasty? I actually think that someone's more willing to consider that, even though the amount of championships won is the same, simply because it happened over a longer span of time. Isn't that interesting? Think about that. One more factoid, and then I'm going to move on to some dad life, husband life stuff. How long is it before a team loses relevance? So a team that's a power and it's no longer necessarily a power. We'll talk about this more in another episode. You know who won the 1990 national championship? It was a tie, right? Not literally a tie, but it was a shared national championship. Colorado and Georgia Tech. Colorado and Georgia Tech, they won a national championship in 1990. 33 years ago. 1990. Colorado and Georgia Tech. So how long does it take for a team that is on top of everything, a championship level team, a championship level program, how long does it take that team to fall out of favor and lose relevance to where they're no longer considered a blue blood or one of the greats? Interesting thought. Okay. I would like to conclude tonight's segment talking about some dad life. Dads, you know, we're blessed. We really are. We got our wives who we take care of. We go out and we work and we provide, and then we do stuff around the house. And if you're a parent, you know, and you protect your children, and you're supposed to be the provider, the protector, the supporter, the fixer, all those things. But I want to talk to you all about a very serious issue in my household. If you've ever seen the movie Signs, you'll notice that at the end of the movie, Joaquin Phoenix ends up taking a baseball bat to the alien that is in his house. And his mother is quoted with saying, "Swing away," and he's swinging away. And as he hits the alien and bashes the alien's skull in, the alien gets knocked over. And what falls on the alien? Water. Well, where did all those glasses of water come? Where'd they come from? They were undrank half full if you're an optimist, or half empty if you're a pessimist, or just unused if you're a realist, water just chilling around the house. Mel Gibson, how did you allow your family to have all that unused water just sitting in those glasses around the house? The point of that part of the movie was everything happens for a reason. There's a purpose for it. Everything led up to this moment. And those glasses of water were supposed to be there because when the alien gets knocked over and the water falls on the alien, it kills the alien. The aliens they have all this technology and they're invading our planet and they're taking over our civilization. And yet, if you dump water on that alien, he's done. Sometimes in my household, I feel like we are signing up for the sequel to Signs. Sometimes in my household, I feel like with all the undrank or half-drank cans of seltzer and cups of water or apple juice, that we're just another scene in the movie of Signs. And I'm just now, I keep thinking to myself, man, either Ashton Kutcher is going to pop out somewhere with a camera and tell me I'm getting punked, or there's going to be an alien and I'm going to have to take my youngest daughter's softball bat and bash that alien, and LaCroix coconut seltzer is going to fall on that alien and dissolve its face. Because I don't know how many more cans of seltzer and cups of water can be just left in any catch-all item of furniture in my house. I don't know. And for that matter, dads, you'll get this. We are also by default the human garbage disposals of our house. I think that comes from seeing unfinished food and not wanting to waste it, as well as just being like, that looks kind of delicious, let me get that. Yeah. So think about that. Dads, can you relate to that? All these just half drank or undrank. My wife likes to take like 2 sips. I love you, Becky, but 2 sips. I just walk by, I'm like, there we go. I feel like Homer Simpson. Ooh. And then I basically get a full LaCroix seltzer. So, all right. We covered a lot. We covered rivalries and the unique rivalry of the Battle of the Ravine, the oldest Division II rivalry in the country. We covered how difficult it is to win a national championship, and that you really just have to be talented to even have a shot. That doesn't mean you're going to win it, but you do need to have that level of talent in order to have a chance to win it. Okay, we're going to talk later about like has-beens, never was, that's that Mighty Duck. You're not even a has-been, you're a never was, the Mighty Duck quote. Wannabes, all those things, okay, as far as teams. But it is an arms race, and you really do have to buy yourself a national championship, or you at least have to be willing to play ball, okay? And then finally, we simply talked about Signs. We talked about all these undrank, unfinished drinks, beverages in my house. And so from the Olsen family complex in Waxahachie, Texas, I would like to leave you tonight and say thank you so much for watching and listening. Please rate, review, subscribe, follow, email me at footballandotherthings1@gmail.com. All right. And man, where is it? There it is. You guys see this right here? Here we go. And in the background, all right, that's Corona del Sol, man. 1001 East Knox Road. Stand up. Coach Barrow over at Corona. I dare you to find somebody who's hyping up the orange and gold as much as I am. All right. Y'all have a great night. Mom, Dad, I love you.